Here you see, in the case of Angola, the different blocks in the different production areas, and basically the Chinese companies only have a minor participation in block 18, and whereas Petrobras, for instance, is already the operator in a couple of blocks. So not only the Chinese do not have a big presence in terms of the being partners in consortium, but they even have a much lower presence in terms of operating blocks. So obviously the potential to transfer technology is a question that poses itself only when a company is operating the block. Otherwise, it's the mercy of... so even if the Chinese were particularly keen to transfer technology to the Angolans, if they don't operate the block, obviously they are not in position to transfer anything. If, to boot, they don't have the technology, which is what seems to indicate, be indicated by the previous table, obviously it's difficult to expect the Chinese to do anything. So it's not that they don't want, it's just they don't have the capabilities to transfer anything. In the case of Petrobras here, you see mostly Angola is the country where they have made the largest investment, also because Petrobras has been in Angola since 1979, but now it has also moved to other countries, both the neighboring like Namibia, but also in Tanzania, in the other coast of Africa, and even in Libya in the Mediterranean. How do they finance themselves? In the case of the Chinese companies, basically they can finance themselves with earnings, because they have earned a lot of money over the past few years. Anyway, most of the deals remain small. So in terms of the investment made by the companies, they are small, so no big loans are needed. There is indirect support, and again, the Angola model was presented before better than I can do. In the case of Brazil, I don't have the data on any particular operation in Brazil, in Africa, but this is a nice picture which depicts another project which is very different, but still, which is the Bolivian project. And here you can see that in terms of financial sophistication, it's much more sophisticated than anything that any Chinese company has ever attempted in Africa or anywhere else for that matter. Why are they still then small players? Because there is a stiff competition for assets, because they're latecomers to the region, so even if the Chinese have been there for 50 years in terms of political relationship, but the French have been there for 100 years, the Americans have been there for 100 years, the Brits have been there for 100 years, and so on and so forth. And the issue of technological hurdles, the fact that they don't have the capacity that Petrobras and many other companies, well, many others, a few other companies have for deep water exploration. So the contribution that they will make, of course, will be in partly linked to their presence and partly linked to their technological prowess. And obviously, they will continue to make, or at least to commit to make good actions, because the Chinese national oil companies, like any other companies, they want to remain, to be welcomed and not to be resisted. Let me conclude with some numbers, some slides on CSR rankings, the corporate social responsibility rankings. And here you can see again, Petrobras has a pretty stellar performance by any means. You see here a number of different indicators, the transparency, revenue transparency indicator, Covenants, which is a private firm in Geneva, global reputation polls, and here you see that on a global level, Petrobras is ranked very highly by any international standard, whereas CNPC is much lower. And in the case of the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, as you know, China has not assigned to it, whereas Brazil and Petrobras have. In terms of, here again, I guess we will hear more from the colleague from Odebrecht. Odebrecht is present in Angola also in the oil business, and they have a number of initiatives in this area which are very closely replicated those that they also have in Brazil. Here are some examples I'm about to finish, and they have also gone in terms of, again, of another important dimension is the contribution that companies can make to the export diversification of the host economy. In the case, of course, of oil-dependent countries, this is particularly important for the Dutch disease problem that Renato alluded to, and for instance, Odebrecht is active in this. But I also want to show you this, which I think is very interesting. Oil, as I said, is not found in Brazil. It is found now in Brazil. It's not found in Switzerland. And so you go where the oil is. And if you look here, here you have 20 kind of basket cases of governance and accountability. And you see that CNPC is active in 10, Petrobras in 2 only, but then you look at Eni from Italy and Shell from the UK and the Netherlands, and you see that they are active in 14 of these countries each. So it's not that the Chinese are doing any worse than the others. You go where the oil is, and then when you are there, you try to make some good. But if you only look at the fact that the Chinese are in Sudan, they are in Sudan because probably when they try to go to other countries, probably Eni and Shell were there already, like to Libya or to wherever, to Syria, which are not much better than Sudan, and they went where they could. Actually, if you look at here, Sudan is, it's true that in Sudan the Chinese are the only ones who are active, but Sudan ranks higher than other countries like Turkmenistan, where Eni is. So basically, to conclude, well, unfortunately, this you don't want to listen, but I can show you a nice picture where you see President Lula among the other leaders that signed the declaration of death of my project. And so basically, let me conclude with this. I think that in a way, Petrobras and the Chinese national companies will have a kind of minimal impact on industry dynamics because they are still competing for different projects. For the big projects, the Chinese and even Petrobras are just not there in the case of Central Asia or the Middle East. On the other hand, Brazil and Petrobras is somewhere in between the kind of 2 extremes of the international companies, which are very active in all geographies and have the financial muscles, the political muscle, and the technological muscles. The Chinese oil companies are still junior players in this particular industry, and I think that Brazil and Petrobras lie somewhere in the middle because they have a lot of deep water capacity. They can draw on this concept of South-South solidarity. Of course, China can do it even more because it can come with the South-South solidarity plus some money. Brazil probably can give less money than that, but can play the South-South solidarity card. Obviously, the active diplomacy is playing a role, increasingly so, but at the same time, I think that Brazil is a different country from China. And in this sense, I think, or from Russia for that matter, and in this sense, the road to a kind of Brazil incorporated is still a long way to go, and so I think the 2 cases are different, and that's why probably the implications for Africa are also different. Thank you.